A very warm welcome to IDFC First Bank presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 12. I'm Ritvika Gupta, and tonight I'm bringing you highlights from our recently concluded Coimbatore Springboard. In this discussion, we discover how Coimbatore is actually escalating, leveraging opportunities, and really becoming a hub for growth. Take a look. On the show tonight, we'll be joined by Junaid Babu, Chief Operating Officer, G Square, G Radhakrishnan, Chairman, Confederation of Indian Industry, Coimbatore Zone, and K. Ilango, Managing Director, RSM Autocast.
So, Mr. Babu, if I could kick off the conversation with you, because as outsiders looking in to the city of Coimbatore, right, what we notice is an airport that's currently under construction that promises to be cutting edge. The promise of the country's largest cricket stadium, right? L&T's largest call center is going to find a home in Coimbatore. And the list goes on. If I were to mention the western wing of the ring road, that will eventually connect the state of Kerala to Coimbatore as well. So we're seeing developments physically, geographically, right? But psychologically, how does the outsider weigh in on this city's growth potential? How bullish are you on this city without any strand of bias, sir?
Actually, the city has a very strong base of manufacturing. It's like somebody mentioned, 25,000 SMEs are already there. So it gives us very solid foundation in terms of city development. And decade ago, the IT started growing, and all big names in IT like Cognizant, TCS, all are here. Recently, we had CM inaugurating an IT park, and it's all filled up actually. So the city is offering a huge potential in terms of growth, and with all the challenges in the metros in terms of infrastructure and all that, I think Coimbatore is bound to have a very huge growth.
Well, we look forward to that. And on the scale of, say, skepticism to optimism, you certainly are on the optimistic side. And I'll come to you now, Mr. Radhakrishnan, because Coimbatore is home to over 25,000 small and medium-sized industrial units, right? But that aside, there's also the prevalence of special economic zones. So to what extent has that attracted foreign investor appetite in the city of Coimbatore, sir? It's quickly emerging out of Chennai's shadow, it seems to me.
Yeah, the special economic zones definitely are a huge catalyst for the growth of the city. We can categorize the SEZs into two parts. One is the IT SEZs and the industrial IT SEZs.
Sure.
Yeah, so IT SEZs have definitely attracted a lot of foreign multinational companies to set up their offices here, set up their centers here. I think they are, they're definitely going to grow exponentially in the coming times. And we hope definitely government announces more SEZs in Coimbatore area. Coming to the industrial SEZs, they have also, contributed a lot. And we have fantastic industries in the Suslan, erstwhile Suslan SEZ, where you have really, really world-class companies. So we also expect more SEZs from the industrial sector also to come into picture. The other part is a small tweaking in the SEZ policies would make a huge impact. That is,
How so, sir?
Yeah, so basically, India as an economy is growing fast. We should not confine ourselves only for exports. I think the demand within India is also good. So SEZs should also have some policies where they can cater to the domestic market. So you have a combination of export, business and the domestic business within the SEZ. I think this will fill up the growth in the SEZs.
All right. And sir, let's talk about urban overflow, right? Because you have all these factors at play, Mr. Ilango. And that, of course, impacts sectors across the board. But I'd love your take on the extent to which it factors the affordability of land, which then has a ripple effect on the real estate sector. And I'll come to you next on that, sir. So urban overflow is positive to a certain extent, but it should not, of course, counteract.
The good thing about Coimbatore historically is that the center of the city did not burst in its seams. Right from the beginning, industrialists in Coimbatore were very prudent in investing on their money on land. So they always moved out and set up their industries outside. If you look at the development of Coimbatore, its industrialization, most of the industries are in the periphery. So that's a great way to start off with. And unlike a city like Bangalore, which suddenly grew up in the center and now is bursting at the seams, we don't have that problem. So we always had this thought process and we moved out. If you look at the fact that Tirupur and Coimbatore are almost connected now,
Right.
there's no space in between. So people are from there moving this side, we're moving that side. Take towns like Mettupalayam, Pollachi, everything are getting linked up with Coimbatore. So this way we moved out, and so the major problems of urbanization did not happen in Coimbatore. Yes, we do have infrastructure issues. We need a lot more. These are happening there in the pipeline. But having said that, we don't have that problem, and that's a good thing for Coimbatore. It has controlled real estate prices until now, but now things have really crept up after the COVID pandemic. Things have doubled up, tripled up, and that is now we starting to feel the pain of higher costs at this time. But broadly, we're still affordable.
Mr. Lango, thank you for sharing that perspective. And Mr. Babu, I have to have you weigh in on this because there's a lot of debate around the affordability of land, the upside for appreciation, and how it compares, how the city of Coimbatore compares to other cities in the state.
So when compared to other metros, I would honestly say Coimbatore is very affordable as of now. And we see a huge upside potential for Coimbatore. And even we have a lot of examples also. We launched a project in L&T bypass called Coimbatore G Square City. That ad was also playing here.
Right.
So whoever has invested 1.5 years back, probably they got their money doubled. That is the kind of returns they had. And Coimbatore specifically, if you look at customer preference also, they prefer a plotted villas or individual houses other than the apartments actually. So that availability of land also is there. Now we are getting into places like Coimbatore and all that. So affordability, I would say it is definitely affordable when compared to other major cities, and it offers a lot of advantages in terms of infrastructure, educational institutions, medical colleges, better climate and all that. I think it's you have the value for money at Coimbatore. That's what I would say.
Well, sir, since you referenced education, I'll bring that up next, and I'll come to you with that question, Mr. Radhakrishnan, because the city of Coimbatore churns out upwards of 50,000 engineering graduates alone, right, every year. And I love the extent, to which the city is actually able to enjoy that homegrown advantage, or do we see those graduates essentially falling prey to the brain drain?
I think brain drain is a national problem. It's not specific to Coimbatore. Whenever we have a salary arbitrage against Western countries, we have to realize to the fact that brain drain is going to happen. But one important thing what most of the Coimbatore entrepreneurs or industrialists have taken into their hands is skilling of people. So what we do is, there is a brain drain which we have to face, but we can also see that the inflow of talent is so high that if we really focus on skilling people at various levels, I think this can be easily addressed.
That's very heartening to hear. And if we're talking about the reverse brain drain, Mr. Babu, I'd love your take on let's talk about NRIs, for example, right? And they have a certain appetite for home ownership in this city. That home away from home, that second home, that holiday home, for example. What sort of fluctuations in sentiment have you seen as Coimbatore continues to mature?
So NRI is a very potential market as far as in the real estate residential projects are concerned. Specifically, Coimbatore is a known market for retirement villas. I think it should be number one in Tamil Nadu. People who want to come and settle down across India in Coimbatore. So NRI, our internal study also shows that Coimbatore will have close to 35% plus growth year on year because this reverse brain drain and the people who come in for retirement villas and all this with this IT infrastructure development and all that. So we feel that that's going to happen, specifically from Middle East and Singapore, those countries. I think the NRIs will come and invest in the project.
It's time for a quick break here. We'll be back shortly. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching IDFC First Bank Presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 12. You're watching highlights from our recently concluded Coimbatore Springboard.
And gentlemen, you'll all notice that, of course, investor focus has gradually shifted from the major metros or from tier 1 cities to tier 2 localities, of which Coimbatore is, of course, a part. It's one of the country's largest, fastest growing tier 2 cities. But many are of the view that Coimbatore is now taking on the look and feel in the operations of a tier 1. Is that overstating the truth, or are we essentially on track to make that mission materialize? And I'll start with you, Mr. Radhakrishnan.
I wish we continue to be a tier 2 city.
And why so, sir?
Yeah, we don't aspire to become tier 1. I think Coimbatore is known for being a tier 2 city, a fantastic tier 2 city to live. We don't want to see high-rise buildings, and like Mr. Ilanga was saying, we don't want urbanization to get into one particular pocket of the geography. We want urbanization to get spread all across the entire geography.
And Mr. Elango, of course, we've touched on so many of the plus points that come with being an entrepreneur in this city. What are some of the pain points that members of our audience may be facing as we speak? And what words of advice might you have for them? What are the resources available at their disposal, sir?
Yeah, like any growing city, the pain points are always there, and we face it day in and day out. Traffic snarls. Coming here was a difficult task. So these things are part of the picture, but the good thing is that the government has been very proactive. In fact, we didn't even have a plan to extend the flyover which was coming up on this road, and the CM was here last month. It was decided, done, and the road testing is going on. That's the kind of speed in which things are happening, and we are very glad that these are happening. One of the things which is very aspirational for us, which we've been crying for a long time, is the master plan for the city. Right. We don't have a proper master plan for the last 25 years, 30 years.
And I'll come to you now, Mr. Babu. I'd love for you to weigh in on some of Mr. Elango's observations and what that ideal city master plan looks like from your lens.
Yeah, like I understand their concern. Whenever city grows, we get into a lot of issues. Like Chennai, we had huge flooding and traffic issues in Bangalore and all that. So it needs to be planned well. Master plan will go a long way to find out how we are going to develop over a period of time. I think that has to be considered. And from real estate industry, when we also plan our development project, we are looking at the sustainability, how to use the resources effectively. All that from the industry perspective will also contribute towards it. I think we all together, we work together. I think we can make it a great living place. Coimbatore will be definitely rocking.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. Radhakrishnan, when one looks at Coimbatore's economy, it is now deeply diversified. I believe it's responsible for over half of the country's, motor pumping requirements. It's become a growing destination for outsourcing automotive components. It's the second largest producer of software in the state of Tamil Nadu after Chennai, and the list goes on. To what extent is diversification really an asset here, or is a more specialized economy the way to go?
I think Coimbatore, fundamentally, if you see in the last couple of decades, diversification was the DNA.
Right.
So right from cotton growing, from spinning of yarn, and then from engineering, then foundries and valves, and now to IT, education. I think Coimbatore had the DNA of a diversified economic growth. I think that is the fundamental of Coimbatore. Going forward, what we need to embrace is, the latest technology. I think there has to be an appetite to, embrace the latest technology at a faster pace. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, and so on and so forth. Robotics is going to rule the world in future. I think, and as entrepreneurs from the city, we should embrace these technologies so that we get a higher value per capita. So if you see the per capita value of the production from Coimbatore is definitely much lower than the international standards, and much lower than even the national standards. The aspiration for all the entrepreneurs should be is how can I increase the value per capita of every person who is working in my organization, be it in textiles, be it in engineering, be it in software, whatever it is. I think that is the only way we can actually grow several times so that the per capita increases and the living standards also increases in the city.
All right. Fair enough, and I think that's an incredibly pertinent point. And coming to you now, Mr. Elango, the one thing we haven't touched upon is tourism. All right, and between the Isha Foundation, and a whole larger list of attractions, there's a growing interest in coming to Coimbatore. But has infrastructure development truly kept pace to enable that connectivity, not simply across the country, sir, but well beyond?
Coimbatore was never a great tourist center. It was always the base for tourism to the Nilgiris. That was for historically speaking. And like the collector said, we are surrounded by greeneries, hills, mountains, wildlife. It's a fantastic place to land to go to these places. Isha has added value to it of late. Having said that, yes, we do lack infrastructure. Going from out of Coimbatore to any of these places, I used to do it in 1.5 hours to Ooty. Now you can never do that at that time. So this is the kind of challenges which are happening. But the great thing is there are plans. For example, the Satyamangalam road, there's a greenfield project which has come up, sanctioned, funds have been allotted, great things are happening. But still a lot more needs to be done, and it has to be done fast.
Now, you mentioned location. And of course, Mr. Babu, in the real estate sector, location is everything. Correct? So I'd love your take on the type of property types, for example, or the market types in which you're seeing the most traction.
See, Coimbatore, as I mentioned earlier, Coimbatore is mostly into plotted. People prefer individual villas, individual plots than an apartment. So currently, as again going back to the project like G Square World and all that, where customers are looking, because here again the traveling is an issue, so they want something within the corporation limit. They don't want to stay very far off, so within 25-30 minutes of travel they want to come to the CBD or to the IT parks and all that. So that is what they look at. They look at individual villas with lot of amenities. That's what look at. And it's again, people come to Coimbatore basically for the weather, climate and all that. So it's a very serene location they look at actually. So this is a general preference for Coimbatore.
Well, thank you, sir. And as the previous panel alluded to, this city has become a manufacturing mecca, right? So, Mr. Radhakrishnan, do you believe that made in Coimbatore goods are now receiving more mileage on the international stage? Or is this largely, a homegrown local development limited to, the borders of our country?
I wanted to say this. I think Made in Coimbatore has a global recognition now. It is not just within the country. I think there is
Huge
a
round of applause.
global recognition for Made in Coimbatore. I've been traveling voraciously throughout the Western countries, and wherever you go, I think Coimbatore is recognized. I think the first thing what we should all feel proud about is, business is a matter of relationship and trust, right? And when you say Coimbatore, predominantly people say that, people in Coimbatore, entrepreneurs and business people in Coimbatore are first trustworthy. I think that is very, very important aspect to, start the relationship. I think that is something which we should all feel proud about and nurture this particular quality. That is on the softer side. But if you see on the technical side, the expertise, the technical expertise we have in terms of talent pool and technical expertise in terms of infrastructure, what we have, I think it has come to a global recognition where people across the Western countries, they really feel that yes, Coimbatore is a trustworthy place for us to, set up factories or have partnership and then grow along with them. I think this is what I wanted to share with my little experience.
All right. And I'll pose my last question to the entire panel. And I'll start with you, Mr. Lango. We're talking so much about how Coimbatore has changed, is innovating, right, is becoming future ready. But over the next, say, 5 to 10 years, if we were to look at this city, what do you believe, sir, will remain the same? Right? We talk so much about change. What will remain the same?
The fundamental qualities of Coimbatore, Radha just touched upon it. First thing is its spirit of entrepreneurship. Second is the fundamental people here are very courteous and hospitable. That is a fundamental DNA of Coimbatore. If you look at the language of Tamil, which is spoken in this part of the region, it has so much of courtesy and respect when you talk to the other person, unlike the rest of the state. So this is the DNA of our city. The third thing is the social consciousness of Coimbaturians is very, very high. Take an organization like Kodisha, for example, is one of the most, there's no organization in the country or even the world, an MSME association going around doing so much. We have our own trade fair complex, we organize trade fairs, we set up our own industrial park, we have our own defense innovation center. Name it, and we are just MSME people, and we have done it. And of course, they've been support, the entire ecosystem supports us, and we do it for the ecosystem. We don't do it for us, but for the entire ecosystem. Take an organization like Surutuli or other people who have done it. Take TEA, for example. TEA built up Tirupur. It's like Coimbatore on steroids. That is how they took it so fast. And it's the same culture, it's the same people, and we are so well connected. And this is what is Coimbatore all about. And for people who come here, be it to do business as a visitor or as a retiree, we offer all these. And this is a perfect DNA for telling what a great place we are. And this is apart from whatever we spoke about technology, talked about growth, recognition, all that is apart. These are the very fundamentals which will never change. I do hope they never change.
Wonderfully put, wonderfully put. And the same question goes to you, Mr. Babu, because, G Square has, of course, delivered over, I believe, 4,000 acres of land, over 12,000 satisfied customers. So all of that has been as a result of change or progress. So the same question, what will remain the same?
So what I would not like to change in Coimbatore at a lighter note is Sambar Vadai from Annapurna. So we like not to have the change of taste with that actually.
Cuisine should remain the same. Noted.
Yeah. So the warmth of Coimbatore, the respect of the people, the entrepreneurship of the people, and this great climate, I think it should all remain same, and the development should not take over that. I think it has to go along with the development. I wish to have that.
All right. And I'll give you the last word, Mr. Radhakrishnan, in the gateway of growth that Coimbatore has become. If you were to fast forward, and go forward in time, fast forward 5, 10, 15 years, what about the city will essentially remain the same?
Fundamental values, I say, the core values of bringing credibility for any relationship is the core value. Apart from hospitality and respect and all those things, I think that is what, as Coimbatorians, we feel proud about. I think that should remain same. But what should also happen in parallel is we need to have a laser focus on what is emerging as newer technologies and newer opportunities, what we have in front of us. Continue to have this diversified mindset to see how we can embrace these new gen technologies at a faster pace. Like say, for example, electric vehicles is going to disrupt the whole automobile sector. So how can Coimbatore focus the diversity to, be a key player in the EV business? How can Coimbatore be a key player in software development and as a product software development? I think that is something which we should focus and then go at a rapid pace to see an exponential growth in the city.
Well, gentlemen, you've given us a lot to think about. Thank you for sharing such a rich range of anecdotes from your personal and professional journeys. All right, Mr. Elango, Mr. Radhakrishnan, Mr. Babu, huge round of applause for all of our panelists, please. It's deeply deserved.
And on that note, it's a wrap on this edition of IDFC First Bank Presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 12. We hope you enjoyed the episode. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.